Hello, Motor World fans and fellow MotoGP nutters, and welcome to Talking MotoGP Sepang. Probably the most intense MotoGP race there's ever been. So we've got lots to talk about. We'll give you all time to tune in from wherever you're tuning in from around the world. Say hello, tell us where you're from, or tell me where you're from, and let's talk the greatest sport on the planet. Let's turn this up a little bit. Dave McBain, hey Rob. Richard Walker, good evening, Rob. Richard, hope you're well. Dave, hope you guys are all doing well. That side, Adrian Cole Rousseau, hi Uncle Rob, hope you are well. I'm very well, thank you so much, Adrian. Hope you well. Dylan Conway, hello Uncle Rob. Got a surprise here. Come look who's here. Come say hello. Come say hello. Wow, is this our room upstairs? Now say hello to everybody. Say hello, everybody.
Hello. Okay.
Family is finally with me, my beautiful wife. So my Ames, my Novi, and my boy Trey are all finally with me in the UK. There we go. Just point it down. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. So
Hello.
people tune in from all around the world. Boy, we get from America, from Portugal. Okay, say bye. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Hi. Love you. Bye. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Love you guys. Bye. See you later.
Okay.
Now, Novi wants to play upstairs.
No, come.
Novi, you must go downstairs. Daddy must talk, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Daddy must talk, yeah, now.
We're going to eat your soup?
And you're going to have... Wow, it's nice, huh? Yeah, great having my beautiful family finally with me in the UK. They arrived, what,
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, as we said. So, yeah, great to have them with. Stephen Bain, Yanni de Jager. Yanni, are you back in the land of the living after your Thailand MotoGP, was it? Sleep tight, my bubbas. Love you millions.
Love you.
Bye. Clint Lake, how's it, Rob? Jacques Smuts. Hello, Uncle Rob and family and friends. Sean Portman. Hey, Shawnee. Brilliant win from Sean at Desi. I think there's going to be a documentary on it, apparently, about just how amazingly fast this kid is on a stock standard BMW. It's just, shouldn't happen. But he went out on the World of Carbon powered by BMW Motorrad SA and won his class. So well done there. Well done to AJ Fenter as well for winning first time out in the ultimate superbike class. My brother won the unlimited superbike class. So well done. Well done to my brother there. Let's have a look. Michael McDougall, Daniel Standuha. I think the kiddies should do the show instead. Yeah, I think they should. They look like excited today. Just trying to shovel food down their faces because, you know, these kids don't eat. But awesome having, it's been awesome having my family here. So yeah, it's brilliant. Richard Hawkins, CP Botts, Mariska Hutchinson, Andre Velman, Steve Engelbrecht, Mark Dodgen, Charmaine Fulyoun, Marina Myberg Cronier, Dave McBain, hi from Cape Town. So that's awesome. Dylan Corner, yeah, those dinosaurs there. Trey's dinosaurs. This is, so, you know, in England you go up with accommodation. You don't go out and, you know, long. You go up. So this is our upstairs room, which is pretty much a play chill room type thing. And George Hudgy's penthouse when he comes and stays with me for British Superbikes, and my brother's penthouse when he comes to stay with me next year for Silverstone MotoGP, I'm sure. Trevor Pollard, enjoy every moment with the family, Rob. Thank you, Trevor. I will. Dick Crosby, Roy Muller, Eugene Jacobs, Justin DP, Andrew Kate, Mitchell Raman, Ray Hendy, Andre Essex, Paolo Cicchetti, Brian Ritchie, Douglas Twig. So many people joining in. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. And well, we've got a lot to talk about this evening because it's crunch time. It is crunch time, ladies and gentlemen, in this championship. One race left to go. Leon Everts, hello, Mr. Portman from Cape Town. Hello, all you Cape Town people. Glad to see that South Africa's got some power. That's awesome to see. But yeah, we've got lots to talk about. It's crunch time. As I said, 2 rounds. Well, it was 2 rounds to go this past weekend. Heading into Valencia, ball very much in Pecco Bagnaio's court. Looked like him, Fabio Aleix. Aleix was the biggest loser. There's no doubt about that. but it looked like some of them were crumbling under the pressure. Certainly Pecco with a couple of crashes, although he looked calm and collected off track, and for many points on track as well. Grant Nell, how's it from New York, Grant? Thank you so much for tuning in. David Hawes, Stan Roberts, shattered for Daz. Yeah, we'll talk about Daz now as well. What a pity for Iagura yesterday as well. Brian Ritchie agreed. But yeah, I was keen to see, and if you watch the paddock talks that I did on our YouTube channel, I was keen to see how Pecco Bagnaia would now handle the pressure, being the championship leader. Up till now, at one point the championship was out of his mind. It was just a case of he was 91 points behind, just a case of go out and ride and win races, win whatever race you can. Championship, you'll never win it. So, he had nothing to lose. There was no real pressure. But coming into this weekend, championship leader, 2 rounds to go. Ducati haven't won a championship in 15 years. They kind of threw it away last year. It was a lot of pressure on Pecco, and I was keen to see how he would handle it. And from the qualifying and that couple of crashes and stuff, I thought, oh, this guy's crumbling a bit. But to pull off the ride that he did was absolutely sensational. Absolutely sensational. Hats off Pecco Bagnaia. We're going to talk about the Ducati team orders and that now. But Pecco Bagnaia just was flawless in that race, because made the start that set his race up after a bad qualifying, made his a great start, got himself in that position. And then when Martin crashed out of the race, he kind of inherited the lead, was under pressure from Bastianini. Bastianini was the foster rider for most of that race, to be honest. And as soon as he made the pass on Pecco Bagnaia, which I was happy to see, because, you do start thinking, oh, is this guy just going to sit behind Pecco the whole race? To me, there was no Ducati team orders. Pecco wants to win it himself. Obviously, come down to the last race, Valencia. If Pecco needs to win and Bastianini's in front, obviously there'll be a change up there. I don't think it'll come down to that, though. But certainly from my point of view, there was no team orders there. Anaya got past Pecco, and I thought, right, this is it. Pecco's got to just settle. Surely the guy's got to just settle and take a 20-point or 18-point, whatever point lead it was into Valencia. And credit to Pecco, he fought back on Anaya, made a brilliant pass, and then I thought, right, let's see what's going to happen here. And Anaya tried. I mean, a couple of times, if I was Ducati management, I would have also shat myself, because there were a couple of times when Anaya Bastianini got very, very close. And he came out afterwards and said, there were no team orders. I tried, but I couldn't get past Pecco. Pecco just was unpassable. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that race from that perspective, that it was, guys, go out and race. And there were no Ducati team orders. I've had a couple of people ask me, and to bring it up in tonight's topic is, why would a Gresini Ducati with Anaya Bastianini and a team that pretty much leased their bikes from Ducati, why would they have Ducati team orders? You can understand Jack Miller and Pecco, even Martin and Zarco to a point, because they are factory Ducati contracted riders, although in a Pramac Ducati team. But why would Anaya Bastianini listen to team orders, or why would Gresini make him listen to team orders? Because they're pretty much giving Ducati money to run those bikes. And you must understand the bigger picture here. Ducati went with us 8 bikes. We made all these resources available for teams for this exact purpose, to, just have strength in numbers. Just, if we can't win the championship with 3 or 4 bikes, let's throw 8 at it and see what happens. And that's got them into this position now where Fabio Quartararo doesn't just have to beat Pecco. He's got to beat 8 Ducatis before he does anything, before he worries about the Brads on the KTMs and the Alecias on the Aprilias. He's got to beat 8 Ducatis. That is his first port of call, or at least 6 of them, majority of the time. And that's what Ducati's plan was. So now, if you're Gresini and you say, but why should they listen to team orders and that? Think about it. And think about this, answer this honestly, and I'm going to read comments here and see what you all say. Would Anaya Bastianini be in the hunt for the championship, top 3 in the championship, won all the races he has, if he wasn't on a Ducati? I don't think so. I think Anaya has proven a lot of people wrong, including myself, that he is a world-class rider and ready to contend for a championship next year on the factory bike. But I don't, I think the Ducati, has helped a lot of these riders. There's no doubt about it. Is Bastianini a much better rider than Brad Binder? No, he's not. but he's on a Ducati. Is Jorge Martin a better rider than Brad Binder? No, Brad proved in Moto2 that on the same bike, Brad will beat Martin all day long, but he's on a Ducati. So Gresini, if they went, oh, well, we're not going to listen to team orders, Ducati would go, well, yeah, we just won't lease you bikes. We won't give you the Stegosaurus fins, which Bastianini's had as soon as they were homologated. Yes, he's on an older spec bike, but he very much has been kept up with the Stegosaurus and Ducati management help. But Ducati do spread their resources to each and every one of those riders. They really do. It's not a case of, you get this and you get, it really is a good spread. They really have managed their resources well. I don't think they've managed their, some of their team operations with riders and putting Pecco up against, putting Anaya up against Martin and stuff, blah, 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 and Jack Miller and blah, blah, blah. But they certainly have managed their resources well. So if Gresini and Bastianini or Zarco or any of those guys would do anything to taint their relationship with Ducati, you'd be shooting yourself in the foot. It is the bike to be on in the championship. Bastianini came out and said he was riding for the win. He couldn't pass. I do think there was maybe in the back of his mind thinking, well, don't do anything stupid, obviously, because it's Pecco and it's Ducati and it's, 2 races to go. I think there was a little bit in his mind, a respectful thought in his mind rather than anything else. And it worked to plan. It worked to plan for Ducati. So, yeah, I know it was a big talking point. A lot of people going off about, team orders and shouldn't be. It's Formula One. They weren't for me in that race. They weren't. It was Pecco Bagnaia doing what Pecco does best, being meticulous, being just relentless, and Anaya Bastianini, who I had down for the victory the whole race weekend, made the move, and I thought he was going to just check out. And at one stage, I thought as well. I thought Pecco would go into that second place mode is good enough, and credit to him, he didn't. With everything on the line, all the pressure, Fabio in third, Pecco still stuck his neck out and won the race. So I think it's brilliant. A very subdued Pecco when he got off the bike. John McLaughlin, I think he was exhausted. I think mentally that must have, physically, it's an exhausting race in Sepang, with that humidity. It's a very demanding track, I know that, but I think mentally he was exhausted. He was pushing the envelope every single corner, knowing that the slightest mistake could be his whole season over once again. All that hard work of catching up 91 points could have been thrown out the window. So I think he was exhausted. If I look at Fabio Quartararo after the race, yes, I know he had the pain in his finger and that, and there were tears there. And Fabio, is a sensitive guy. He really is. But I think Fabio's exhausted. I think Fabio's looked exhausted the last couple of races. So I think a lot of riders are absolutely exhausted. And this is going to be the big talking point next year with 21 races for these guys to do. I do think it's too much as I love it and see more racing and more events. The sprint races added in, I think it's too much for riders and teams. If I look at it, honestly, I'm still looking for full-time work here in the UK. I'm still assist my brother with MRW, and we still do this, and we'll definitely carry this on no matter what happens. But there are opportunities to potentially work in MotoGP, but I can't. I'll never see my family. And speaking to guys in the MotoGP, and I look at that little bit of traveling that I did to all the races this year, it's awesome when you're at the track and you're smiling and you're seeing the bikes, but then you think that you take 2 days to recover after a MotoGP race weekend. It's a lot of travel involved, and next year is going to be more physically draining, more mentally draining for teams, riders, and everyone involved in MotoGP. So, I understand MotoGP wanting to extract as much of this show as they can. I'm sure they've put 21 races on, like the Kazakhstan and India. In case one falls away, you've still got your 20 races or whatever. But to me, it's a bit too much. I think we've got to remember that some of these guys are married, some of them have kids. Got to remember that there's a life outside of MotoGP for these riders and teams. So I think it's a little bit hectic. And this last race, as John said, I saw a lot of exhausted people, a lot of exhausted riders. Happy that there's a 2-week break. I just messaged Darren now. He's literally just got back to Andorra, and he says he's exhausted. He's just absolutely exhausted. So yeah, let's see how next year goes. Johan Anchor, hi from South Carolina. Thank you so much for tuning in. How's it, Uncle Rob? Races happening as often as UK change PMs. Christopher Van Wyk. I like that. Michael Volelis. You still got to teach me how to say his surname. Pecco won it fair and square. I agree. Pecco has got to finish in front of Fabio Brian Ritchie. So basically heading into Valencia, 23-point lead it is for Pecco. Pecco's just got to finish inside the top 13 or whatever, 14, 13 if Fabio goes and wins it. But this is the problem. Fabio's got to, beat 8 Ducatis before he even worries about anyone else. Edwin Norris, Pecco's start was bold and just what he needed. Edwin, I completely agree. I think that set his race up. It was bold. But when I saw him going on the inside, I thought, oh, my bad, cold tire, cold brakes potentially, could he have thrown it away in turn one? And that was a bold decision to make. And I think it set his race up. I think that filled him up with confidence. And he went, you know what? I'm going to win this championship. I'm going for it. And it was great to see. Hats off Pecco, because under all that pressure, he prevailed. A true champion's performance there, although Fabio's performance in third was also a true champion's performance. So that's a killing thing for Fabio, is that he's given so much. He's really just, you cannot fault Fabio Quartararo. He's left nothing behind, and he's been let down by Yamaha. It's as simple as that. Mark Dodgen, I'm convinced there were team orders. Freak, why not? It's their right. Now it's all Pecco's to lose. I think, Ducati have come out and said they've told each Ducati rider. We saw it kind of with Zarco in Thailand. I think in certain situations there'll be team orders. I think in that situation where, right, Fabio's behind us, Pecco is in a safe second, and Naya can go win it, because, rightfully so, Naya can still win this championship. So why? It's not fair to say to him, you've got to sit behind Pecco, when he's going, well, I'm faster, I can win the race and keep myself in the championship. Why would I? I think in that situation, there was no team orders between Pecco and Anaya, in my mind. And I think you could see it. I mean, Anaya came so close a couple of times to just rear-ending him. It really was. And the fact that he passed Pecco and Pecco passed him back, I don't think so. I think if it was a Martin, whether Martin would have listened or not, I don't think so. That's Ducati's next big headache for next year, is trying to, rein that Oaks mentality in a little bit. But no, I don't think so. I think if there were other riders involved, the Zarcos, the Marinis, the Bezzecchis, I think, and someone mentioned it, I think on Facebook or somewhere, I think had Bezzecchi got ahead of Fabio and taken third away, and Anaya was leading, I think then maybe there could have been a change up, because then the picture's even bigger for Pecco. I think he would have even been champion if I'm not mistaken. So then Anaya maybe would have relinquished that lead to Pecco. But the fact that Fabio was third, Bezzecchi's kind of challenge had faltered, right? If Pecco finished second, not the end of the world. We still take a 18-point or whatever lead into Valencia. So yeah, Yanni De Jager, unfortunately back in the land of no electricity, was such an amazing experience. Pit pass was the best. I definitely need to make a plan next year for MotoGP. That's awesome to hear. Carmen Fisher, John McPhee did a brilliant job. Moto3 was super exciting. Moto3, Moto2, and MotoGP was really exciting racing at Sepang. Sepang is kind of like Phillip Island. It always does pop up some really good races there. Marco Neves, if anyone else besides Fabio wins, Pecco is champion. That is correct. Eugene Jacobs, what a ride from Miller too. 14th to 21st on the first lap, and still crossed the line in what was it? 7th. It was 7th. Let me just, in my notes, have a look here. It was 6th. He pipped Marc Marquez at the death there. So yeah, it was an absolute brilliant ride from Jack Miller, who said he had the worst start in his career, went down to 21st, as Eugene says, and fought his way up to 6th. So it's a pity, because showed really good pace. He could have put himself in the mix potentially. Ducati would have looked at that and thought, if you got a start, if you had got a Pecco start, you could have put yourself, in contention to potentially ruffle the feathers of Fabio Quartararo. But nevertheless, great ride there. 14th on the grid, back down to 21st, and up into 6th place overall. Kendall Allen, evening, Rob. How you doing, Kendall? Hope you're well. Mariska Hutchison, saw something on my newsfeed regarding the end of Max's Moto3 team. So Mariska, yeah, that team is kind of Max Biaggi is not running a team as far as I hear. He looks like he's potentially going to be going to the RNF Aprilia team to run that team for Aslan as kind of like a co-team owner or sporting director or team director of that team. So that team has been bought by Intact Racing GP, the Moto2 team that Darren's racing for, which is why that Husqvarna branding is going on the Moto2 bike. Philip Ertel, who was Max Biaggi's team partner in that Moto3 team, he'll run the Moto3 team, and then the Intact Moto2 team will stay with the same management, just with the Husqvarna branding on. So in a nutshell, I hope that explains that. So the team will still be there, just without Max Biaggi, basically. Mark Dodgen, why would the Beast listen to team orders? Because he wants to come into that team without animosity. So, Mark, I think it is just a respect thing, to be honest. In that situation, I don't think he would have had to, like I said, because he's well within his right to put his hand up and say, I'm still in this championship, so I'm going to go for it. I think it was more of a respect thing. I think, Anaya would have weighed up the whole situation and gone, realistically, it's going to take a miracle for me to win the championship. I'm in the team next year. Next year, I've got a real good shot on the factory bike. And let me tell you, Bastianini is motivated because he wants to climb on that bike next year and dominate and win the championship. Fair and square, no cut, just go destroy everyone. So I think Bastianini's motivation is more for next year. This year, from what I say, respecting, and he nearly rear-ended him a couple of times. He put a lot of pressure on, Pecco riding behind, and they heating up that Michelin front tire. Every time Pecco went into one of the tight corners, I just pictured that front folding. I really did. I was on eggshells that entire race. So I don't even want to know how Ducati management were. Every time they cross pan to Pecco's girlfriend and sister in the pits, that made me more nervous. Every time they shot Gigi Dall'Igna in, and that made me more nervous. There was just so much tension in that race. And I think Enea Bastianini, whether he would have listened to team orders if he had any or not, I think himself, out of respect for Pecco and the situation, I think he would have made the right decision anyway. I think, to be honest, I think Pecco just won the race. I think Enea didn't have anything more for him. I think Pecco just rode the perfect race in my mind. Megan Lee de Villiers, no, there was no team orders, and it's seriously insane that people keep thinking this. The guy proved himself so many times before this. It's insane. It's insane. Leave the guy alone. And seriously, what if it were Binder in Pecco's position? So many would be cursing if there were no team orders. Binder wouldn't want that, so why would Pecco Bagnaia want it? Megan, brilliant point. It is. If Brad was in that position, we'd be screaming, why is there no team orders? Move out the way. Blah, blah. We would, because that's a personal contact. That's a more personal emotion. But Pecco's come out and said he doesn't want to win it like that. And looking at that race, because there's a guy like me and a normal human being compared to these MotoGP riders. As soon as he was in second, I was like, Pecco, just stay there. Just stay in second. Let Enea win the bloody race. Stay in second. Get your points and take a nice healthy lead into Valencia. Don't do it. And the guy didn't. He fought back. So yeah, I full credit to him. Absolute full credit to him. He really does deserve it. Gerard Kukumu, strange that a Ducati team hasn't approached Brad Binder unless he's too loyal. So Gerard, from what I can see in the paddock, Brad is really loved and respected. If you're walking with Brad and a Gigi Dall'Igna walks past, Gigi will greet Brad, like a respectful greet. Same with everyone in that paddock. And I have no doubt that plenty of people have been in contact with Brad. Brad is very loyal. He's got his KTM contract signed up. He will never. Brad's not the kind of person or rider to go against the contract. He's fully committed to this KTM project. I've said it time and time again. I do think next year is a very big year for KTM to prove to Brad that they can make a big step in order to give him a machine that will challenge for the championship if not next year, in 2024 latest. What happens at the end of 2023 if Brad's still on an inconsistent KTM? I don't know. This is me speaking from my point of view. This is not me speaking for Brad or the KTM or anything, but from what I can see, there'll have to be a lot of thought put into it, because I think Brad will be 28. I think if the Miguel Oliveira going to Aprilia and performing consistently better than he did on a KTM, I think that'll be a big eye opener. I think if Jack Miller comes and also battles a little bit with the inconsistency, KTM go up and then they go down, they go up and then they go down. There'll be a lot of factors that Brad take into consideration, and come the end of 2023, I think has a very hard decision to make, whether he stays and commits to the KTM project. If he sees that there is value and growth and development and progress, and I have no doubt that he will. But if he doesn't, and a Pramac Ducati seat becomes available because Zarco's leaving, or Aleix Espargaro in the factory Aprilia team seat becomes available, or Maverick Vinales because he's tried to blow up Aprilia engines and he gets fired, or if a really good ride becomes available, he's got to think about it, because he's got to start thinking, time's ticking away. I am a championship contender rider, there's no doubt about it. But I think KTM are making the right steps for 2023 next year. I really do. I've said it on many occasions as well. They're hiring the right people. They've got the right people in their team, and they're just I think they're gonna start putting it more together next year. I really do. I think it's going to be a great year next year for Brad and KTM. I think Jack's going to bring a lot. I think it's going to be a good year. Chris shares the pit action and body language in Ducati pit says otherwise. Okay, so that's obviously an internal conversation going on there. Gerard Kukumu, do you feel KTM with BB and Jack Miller will be a force to be reckoned with next year? I agree with you. I still think there'll be they're not going to go and just boom and win this championship comfortably. I still think there's going to be, tracks where they are going to suffer. Their bike is very much, and the problem with the bike at the moment, up till now, it's been very one-directional. They've certainly given it a bit more direction in areas to make it better at other tracks. So they've certainly found something. And Brad's debrief after the race was, he was very frustrated and disappointed with the Sepang race. But in the 6-week, flyaway races, they have, found some things, and we saw it with brilliant performances in Motegi. Phillip Island didn't go to plan, but there was positives to take away there. The podiums that he got. So there's a lot of positives that have come out of this, and they just need to put all those together. They just need to, put all those pieces together. Andre Essex, Rob, I agree with your Ducati statements. Look what's happening with Bautista on the Ducati at Superbike. When he was on the Honda, he was basically nowhere. So yeah, it is. It's if you want to be on a Ducati in MotoGP, you've got to play Ducati's game. And if I was a Ducati rider, I would play their game, because I wouldn't want to be on any other package right now, to be honest. And with Suzuki going out, your options are even less. So yeah, I know people think, why does Grassini or VR46 Mooney have to listen to Ducati team owners? They lease their bikes, and they do, but then you lucky that Ducati are making those resources available for you to lease and be on the best package in the championship. So let's see. Scott Mordaunt, hey Rob, what would need to happen for Fabio to win the championship? So Scott, he's got to win, and Pecco's got to finish 14th or worse, 15th or worse, because remember, even if they tie in points, Pecco's goes to 2 race wins, and Pecco's got a crap load more race wins than Fabio. It's someone can, I don't know if you've got Stephen Berry here, but someone can put a statistic. It's crazy. I mean, I think Fabio's won 4 races this year, if I remember. So it hasn't been. I mean, Fabio's still in the championship purely because he's held on. Held on to the coattail. He's just clawed and held on for dear life. And had Pecco not had 5 DNFs, or only if those were only 2 DNFs, Pecco would be champion by miles already. So Fabio, in many ways, hasn't been the best rider. Well, he's been the best rider not on the worst bike. There's no other way to put it. The Yamaha is the worst bike on that grid this year. Fabio has just done stupidly insane things on it to keep it where it is. So that's why I feel so bad for him. I respect Pecco, and I think he's done enough and deserves to win the championship, coming from 91 points back. Yes, he's on the best bike on the Ducati and that, but 91 points back, and then to win all the races that he has, he deserves it. But Fabio deserves it as well, because he's ridden out of his skin. He's left nothing off the table. Corbus Mayer, hey Rob, let's talk about Frankie. Oh, Corbus, where do I start with Frankie Morbidelli? I'm very disappointed with Frankie Morbidelli, not only of his performances, the fact that he hasn't been able to make it work. I'm disappointed with the way he handles his press debriefs, his race debriefs. He doesn't look very motivated to me. He doesn't look like a rider that's trying to find solutions. He looks like a clueless rider, to be honest. And it's frustrating because, a rider like Darren, who just gives his absolute everything, no matter where he is, how he is, what he is, I would much rather see Darren get that opportunity, because Franco just doesn't look bothered, and Darren would pour his heart and soul into that, very much like Fabio has. But Frankie he just seems clueless. I mean, to cruise around in sessions, in qualifyings and free practices, I just don't know. I don't know how he thinks he'll get away with it. And then look, his move on Aleix Spargo, in many ways was racing. It's that kind of corner, that Sepang corner, that long right where it invites you to shove it on the inside. But when I watched the first initial replays, I thought, it's a racing incident. Then when I saw the onboard of Aleix Spargo, and you just see this Yamaha wing with a Frankie Morbidelli on it, just almost, just come clattering into him. That's when I thought, okay, that's a bit silly and a bit hard, especially when you've got race direction just watching your every single move. So yeah, Frankie Morbidelli, just as I said with Paul Espargaro, when riders are, just drained of confidence and not bothered as they are, they make these stupid errors and they don't think. Paul Espargaro running off track and just pulling back on the track as if he was the only guy on track, nearly murdering Johan Zarco. It's crazy. It's madness. And Frankie Morbidelli, I know he still had a little bit of a dig at the race steward, saying, it was racing, and I'm very disappointed with Frankie Morbidelli. He's done nothing to kind of make me feel like he's trying, like he's really, really trying. He doesn't give that impression at all. So in many ways, it's a wasted seat. We all know the talent that's there. We all know the talent that's there, but it's not working. It's not, and I don't know how much longer Yamaha will put up with it. If this better package comes next year and Fabio is able to go better and still contends for the title, and Frankie's still backwards, complaining and making silly errors, what do Yamaha do? It's just disappointing because Darren's lost his ride in MotoGP, and there sits a Frankie who's, in my mind, not bothered. So it's very frustrating. Vanna van der Spey, your opinion on DJ Antonio's statement. So for all of those that haven't seen the Motor Rider World Facebook page, it came out, DJ Antonio's come out saying, although he loves motorcycle racing, he's struggling with it at the moment because he gives his all and he's just not going any faster. And, that statement to me was, and you could see it in the results. I've spoken all year about, when Maverick Vinales was happy and smiling in the paddock, and he really was. He was a different guy. He was on the podium and challenging. Now he's this, complaining a guy. I hate life. The Aprilia must pull their socks up, but blah, blah, blah. And, he can't finish in the top 15. Jack Miller, at the beginning of the year was crashing because there was all this contract. I'm on a 1-year contract. Now Martin's coming, now Nash coming, crashing. Signed his KTM deal, 2-year deal, full confidence in him, 2-year deal. Thank you. And the guy's been on the podium and been one of the fastest riders of MotoGP since that contract. So I cannot stress how mentally demanding motos at that level it is. We know how stressful it is on us as fans, sitting at the TV and screaming and shouting, and how can you do this and this, and Brad, why are you in the pits for so long during qualifying, and Darren, why are you doing, and this, and you know, imagine what they're feeling. And yeah, Digi, Magello was on pole position. I think it was Magello where he was pole position, and since then he's been nowhere. I wasn't highly impressed that DJ Antonio was coming to MotoGP. I didn't think he had done enough in Moto2. I didn't think he would cut it that well in MotoGP. He proved me wrong with a couple of really good performances, and I put my hand up, and every time I saw him at the track, and he signed stuff for me. It was, well done, Digi, brilliant. But he's fallen off the end of a cliff, and it's when I read that statement, it all made sense. How long is he going to hang around? Riders, Marc Marquez suffered with it. Marc Marquez, yes, he had the injury in that, but that all played a part. And mentally, Marc Marquez was battling at the beginning or half of this year. He was miserable. He wasn't smiling. He was coming to races and he wasn't happy. And he looks a completely different rider now, a completely different person, and that shows in results. DJ Antonio doesn't want to be there. And I don't know I know what will change that. Going out and winning a race or finishing on the podium or top 5, that'll change that. But that's not going to happen in current MotoGP. And, it's hard, even riders like Darren, they must sit there and think, am I good enough to be in MotoGP? Because, when you're not getting the results or the performances, and MotoGP is just as ruthless as it is with the amount of talent that it is, you do question yourself. And, for these guys who are the most arrogant people probably on the planet, because you have to be in that sport, you have to have arrogance. If you do not believe that you are the greatest invention in the world, do not be on that grid. Just don't, because you're wasting your time, the team's time, everyone's time. You've got to have that overwhelming self-belief that no one can beat me. And when you don't have that, it hurts them, because it makes them feel unworthy. And that's what's happening to DJ Antonio at the moment. And it's a mental struggle, and I feel for him. I read that, and it hit me. I feel for him. I've had it in my racing career, not anywhere near the level they have, but when I was teammates to Sheridan Rice and those kind of guys, and they winning on the same bike effectively that you are, and you're doing everything you can, but you're just not getting anywhere. And you just start thinking, well, it has to be me, because it's not the bike, it's not the team. He's winning on it, it has to be me. I'm just not good enough. And it's a hard pill to swallow. And the hard thing for DJ Antonio is that he's on a Ducati. He's on a Ducati on the same bike in the same team that Enea Bastianini is, finishing 3rd in the World Championship. And he can't come close to a top 15, a top 10. So it's got to be hard, and I hope he can turn it around, and I hope he's talking to the right people, and I hope he's got a good team in his corner. I know he's got his brother as his right-hand man, his assistant, and I just hope they're doing everything they can to help him, because we've seen these horror stories of athletes in all kinds of sports suffering with mental breakdowns and not handling it well. So I'm glad he came out with that, because just messages of support on social media can help. That was a guy asking for help. That was a guy saying, this is what I'm struggling with. Please, I need reassurance, I need messages, I need confidence, I need whatever. So yeah, if you see it, go into DJ Antonio's, even if you're not friends with him on Facebook, Instagram, just go put a message there and say, anything, just keep it up, or just stay positive. You deserve to be there, whatever, because they all do deserve to be there. In this current crop of MotoGP riders, they really do. And that's what hurts with Darren Binder, is it was hard for him, because in reality, he was only going to get the 1-year shot, which is very disappointing for me, with regards to Razlan and them, because why would you make an investment like that for 1 year when you clearly knew you were going to give him a 1-year shot? And that's the frustrating thing. I'm still all for this move that Darren Binder has made, and it's now official. We can finally talk about it. Darren Binder in Moto2 with the intact Liqui Moly Husqvarna, it's a long name, Moto2 team. and I think he's going to do brilliant. I think it's very much a case of one step back, two steps forward for Darren Binder. I cannot wait to see Darren Binder in Moto2. I really, really cannot wait to see that. But getting back to DJ Antonio, yeah, it's a tough one. It's hard. It was hard to read that from what should be a confident MotoGP rider living his dream. It was hard to hear. It was hard to hear that. Richard Stainer, what do Yamaha need to do to catch up? Surely they lined up for hiding next year with only 2 bikes on the grid. Should they be limiting a number of bikes per manufacturer? Might be a one make series soon. So Richard, Yamaha obviously talking about this, better package for next year. Foster, they just seem to think they need horsepower, which in my mind, I think they need a lot more than just horsepower, than 2-3 k's an hour. I think whatever advantage they used to have in terms of that sweet handling package, which is what has kept him in the championship for now in the hands of Fabio Quartararo, I think there's a lot of areas they need. I think Ducati and Aprilia made such a big step, and KTM to a point, that Yamaha and whatever plans they had for 2022 or whatever they thought they had to do for 2023, I think I said it in the last show, they need to go back to that board, just rub it all out and start again. Because, like you said, plus the fact that they've got 2 bikes might work in their favor is, it's spreading their resources less, so they can really just focus on 2 bikes and all their resources on those 2 bikes and on those 2 riders. The downside is, and where Ducati have proved, having 8 bikes on the grid is so good, is that you're going to have a Fabio who very much is a riding style like this and works with Yamaha, and you've got a Franco who's got a riding style like this and doesn't work with the way Fabio wants it. So that's going to be tricky. Ducati have got, they can take from all these different riding styles, from a DJ Antonio who just came from Moto2, from a Martin that's very aggressive, from a more precise Pecco, from a, I think more towards the latter stages of race, Enea Bastianini, how the bike needs to handle on used tires, Luca Marini and Bezzecchi, who have come with a fresh approach. They take all that information to make this ultimate machine. It really is like the Avengers getting together and making the ultimate Avenger. That's what Ducati have done. And Yamaha don't have that luxury. They really don't, because they've literally got to throw all their baskets in Fabio's basket, because the Morbidelli basket has not worked. The Dovizioso basket didn't work, and they didn't really pay enough attention to Darren. To me, I don't think they paid attention to Darren at all, and that's been Darren's biggest downfall this year with Yamaha and that team. So yeah, if Yamaha think they just need to find 2 or 3 horsepower or 2 or 3 k's an hour for next year, they are sadly mistaken. They have got a huge thing, and I have no doubt that Fabio in his contract would have said, cool, I'll sign that. What was it, a 4-year deal or 2-year deal that he signed? But there's a release clause saying, if this bike does not improve to X, or I feel that it's improved to X, come 2024, I'm a free agent and I can get out of my contract. So big year for KTM, big year for Yamaha 2023. Big year for everyone, of course. Aprilia, it's going to be a big year for them, because their kind of package and their whole big burst and big improvement has seemed to have just hit a brick wall. So a big year for them as well. But yeah, I think Yamaha and KTM are the 2 big ones next year when it comes to holding on to their assets, which is Fabio Quartararo and Brad Binder. Donovan Petzer, even John McPhee looked exhausted. Yeah, it's exhausting. That Sepang must be exhausting. Ray Hendy. So if you're in a satellite Ducati team, there is a chance that if push comes to shove, you will have whispers in your ear that might prove a bitter pill for some guys. Ray, I completely agree. But if you want to be on the best bike in the paddock to give yourself the best chance, then there's a game to play. Unfortunately, Mark Clift, but you did have a great Uber. Mark Clift, ladies and gentlemen, is the greatest Uber driver on the planet. So he has been my Uber here in the UK. I finally got my own car, obviously, because the family arrived. So we got our nice little blue Citroen C3 we call it the Dolphin, or Trey calls it the the Portman Rock and Roll car. But yeah, Mark Clift was my Uber up until now, and without Mark Clift, I wouldn't have been able to go to any of those MotoGP races because I would have had to walk to the airport, and it's about an hour and a half away in a car. So yeah, I would never have made it. So yes, Mark, you are the greatest Uber driver in the entire world. Rob Heppen, but Rob, World Superbike do it. So what's the difference? Rob, what is that with regards to World Superbike? What's the difference? Sorry, I've obviously missed something there. Just catch me up there, and I'll gladly answer your question. Speaking of World Superbikes, I mean, looks like Ducati are going to dominate MotoGP, Constructors, Team, Rider World Championship, World Superbikes, Constructors, Teams, Rider World. You can't fault them. You cannot fault them. They've spent gazillions on resources and providing bikes and so they deserve it. You can't take it away from them. Rob Swart, hello, Uncle Rob. Rob, how are you doing? Hope all is well. Brian Ritchie, will we have a chat with our boys before Valencia, Robert? Brian, I don't think before Valencia, even though, they've just had a hectic 6-week traveling and that don't want to go bothering them now. They need to try and rest as much as they can because they also got, a vigorous training schedule. And then certainly after Valencia, we will grab a word, whether it's before the end of the year or early next year. We will definitely have a live chat with Brad and Darren Binder. The exciting thing for Darren Binder is it sounds like there's a couple of Moto2 tests penciled in before the end of the year in November. So a couple of tests, not just one, where you get 10 laps and then you've got to go wait until March. So that's exciting that Darren looks like he might get a couple of test sessions, a couple of test days on the Moto2 bike before he comes back to South Africa for a much and well-earned break, and then waiting to go testing early next year. So that's very exciting. Stephen Bain, to be honest, do those tailpiece fins really work? To me, it looks ridiculous and pointless. Stephen, I also think it looks ridiculous and pointless, but it obviously makes a difference because Marc Marquez is now running it. I see he tried it in Phillip Island on and off and didn't really go for it, but Sepang, he had it on, and the Ducatis have had it on since. So you hear, and we'll ask Simon Crayford when we do a live chat with him, hopefully before the end of the year or early next year. But from what I can hear, it helps a little bit, obviously, with downforce, but it's also more to disrupt the airflow to the rider behind. So if you look at even Bastianini now, he could never sit in Pecco's slipstream. He always sat there for a little bit and then would kind of get that, I can't. I've got the word right here, but it's not coming out. Like this disturbed air from those fins, it just creates like a distortion, basically, and then you can't sit in the slipstream. It just becomes too disrupted the bike. So I think it's more also. I think it plays both roles: a little bit of downforce and just to disrupt the rider in your slipstream's air, so that he can't slipstream you, basically. Vanna Yonka, I think the sprint races is going to be absolutely useless. All he's going to do is give those 10 or 12 lap races the edge in points, not thinking tire wear. See, Vanna, I agree with you and I disagree with you. I'm excited to see the sprint racing because it's more racing. It's more times I get to see the MotoGP riders race, which, I always crave, even though as hard as it is on the teams and riders, from that point of view, I don't agree with it because it is just adding on to their already manic schedule. But then in many ways I agree with you. It's going to be like it was in World Superbikes, where it's the same outcome in many ways. Although I do think, Jack Miller maybe on a KTM is going to be able to do slightly better when he's able to run a soft. Although having said that, they do battle on the soft. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see either way, but it's very, 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 very hard on the riders and teams for next year. It really is. Rob Swart, Miller's ride insane yesterday. Thoughts? Yeah, Rob, we've spoken about it. It was phenomenal. To come from 21st when he dropped back after that terrible start to finish in 6th is fantastic. Absolutely, absolutely fantastic. Moto2, what not to do while leading. Yeah, Moto2 was also brilliant. Ayagura, thrown away the Moto2 Championship, Ayagura, and I really like Ayagura. Augusto Fernandez, I thought that battle between him and Dixon was awesome, and I was a little bit disappointed with Augusto afterwards. Not wanting to shake Jake Dixon's hands. I can understand, because he's in a championship fight and Dixon's not, and Dixon was riding like a man that's not, and it was bumping and barging, but it's racing. Listen, it's racing. What do you want Dixon to go? Okay, well, you in for the championship and I'm not, so there we go. There's a red carpet. It doesn't work like that. It was good racing to me, but then Iagura, handed it to Augusto Fernandez. So yeah, I felt for Iagura, because in many ways I respected him for that. He wasn't just settling for second. He tried to go for the win. But in that situation is where you've got to be a bit smarter, and unfortunately he wasn't. Robert Mackey, mathematically possible, and Fabio has given everything this year, but I can't see him taking the win in Valencia. Therefore, Pecco will be champion. Listen, unless Pecco crashes, has a bike failure, or something like serious bad luck, it's Pecco's to lose. It's Pecco and Ducati's to lose. There's no doubt about it. It really is. Theirs to lose. There's Stephen Berry. Support can't stay, but how everyone enjoy the races. Binder's rule. I agree with you, Stephen. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for a little bit of time. Every second counts with Stephen Berry. Brian Ritchie. I was watching via Service TV, and they did an interview with Jürgen Link and a quick piece with Peter Oertel. Clarified a lot. Okay, that's with regards to that Moto3 team and Darren Husqvarna team. Grant Nell, must be soul destroying for Fabio to see a lead like that blown largely to no fault of his own. He must have been so confident 6 months ago, and he'd be world champion again. Cruel racing gods at work again. So Grant, I agree with you. I do. I just feel for Fabio. I really just want to give him a big cuddle, because he has given his absolute all, and it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. Jonathan Bohr, good evening, Rob. Jonathan, how are you? Thank you so much for tuning in, and give us some of your thoughts. So Jonathan is also very, when it comes to MotoGP, massive amounts of knowledge and resources as well, just like Stephen Berry. So yeah, if Jonathan, if you're in conversation with Jonathan, you can take with what he says. You can take with a lot of respect, and knowing that there's a lot of knowledge and resources behind that. Vince Ramsey, I've spoken about the DJ Antonio thing. Hi Rob, sorry I'm late. Daryl Nathard. Jeez, I want 100 push-ups, Daryl. You know the drill. Let's see. Where was I going to catch up from? I'm just catching up on comments here. You think Anea was trying to pressure Pecco into falling? Aubrey Glasgow. The only way he would have a slim chance in the championship. Nah, Aubrey, I don't think. I think he was putting pressure on Pecco to make a mistake to give him the race win. That's why he was literally on his ass the whole time. There's no ways, if he was listening to team orders, that he would ride that close to Pecco. There's just no ways. He wouldn't risk himself. He wouldn't risk that at all. I just think they were both just riding on the absolute limit. And credit, this is where Fabio Quartararo needs more credit, because while they were riding on the absolute limit, he was closing that gap. He came out and said he just didn't have enough heat in the tires early on to push as much as they did. But he closed the gap in the end, which, just can't take my hat off enough to Fabio Quartararo. I really can't. Honestly, I really think that Brad would want to deal with all the politics at Ducati, Mariska Hutchinson. I've had a lot of people say that to me, Mariska, because there is a lot of politics, and, it is a different mentality. And I've had a lot of people say to me that they can see Brad Binder on an Aprilia in 2024. A lot of people inside the paddock, a lot of my close mates saying they can see Brad Binder replacing Aleix Espargaro at Aprilia in 2024. And who knows? It's a 2-year deal that Aleix and Maverick are on. Brad's got his deal. And like I said, it all depends on what KTM can bring. If they can bring enough improvements, Brad will be as loyal as he can. He's shown his loyalty already, and he wants that project to work. He wants it to. The team wants it to. Everyone wants it to. They've just got to put all those pieces together. What happened to Miguel Oliveira? He was just behind Brad, and then what happened? Bloody load shedding. I missed it. Nick Bester. I'm not too sure. I don't think he was ever that close to Brad. I know he was a position behind Brad. I don't think he was ever close to Brad, because let's talk about Darren's brilliant start. Again, we're talking about brilliant starts. 24th, and then I had to like kind of blink 100 times to check the timing monitor, because after the first lap he was in 13th, and then he was in 12th, and then he was in 11th ahead of Maverick, Paul, Miguel, and I was like, Jack Miller, and I was like, is this right? And this is where it's frustrating with the cameraman. Yes, I know there was a championship, and there was this story at the front of the field with Fabio, Pecco, and Aya, but just give us 10 seconds of what's going on further down. Just 10 seconds. Not asking a lot. We're not asking you to not show the leaders ever again. Just show us a little bit more. And they never. So that was frustrating. But yeah, then Darren was in 11th for a long time. He really was. And he was doing a fantastic job, Daz. And then from what I can hear, a little bit of brake fade started creeping in, which something he suffered with a couple of times. And ultimately, that's what cost him to crash out of 14th place, I think he was in. So very frustrating for Daz, because would have been nice to back up his great ride in Phillip Island with another top 15, a couple more points, but a lot more positives to take again. Darren Binder has proven that he knows how to launch a MotoGP bike. On the opening lap, I don't think there's anyone that's made up more positions than Darren Binder. I'm pretty sure if there is a stat of the riders that made up the most positions on the opening lap or the opening couple of laps, it'll probably be Darren Binder, then Brad Binder, then I don't know, a Jack Miller or an Abe Bastianini or someone. But yeah, well done, Daz, for that. I thought it was brilliant that he was able to get there, and it wasn't just that he was there for a lap and then dropped back. He was fighting for the 11th place for, I think it was 7 laps or something before he had the crash. So pretty about that. But yeah, as far as Oliveira goes, just was never in it. Unfortunately. Francois Coetzee, I think Oliveira made the wrong tire choice. Should have I think Oliveira made the wrong choice. He should have taken the Ducati ride. So yeah, he kind of snubbed the Cressini Ducati ride for a factory Aprilia in this RNF team. I agree with you, Francois. I agree with you. Although I do still think Miguel, if they can give him the same Aprilia that Aleix had this year, I think Miguel will be ridiculously fast. Jonathan Fisser. Now, Jonathan is a South African from Boksburg, who was at Sepang. Hi, Rob. Was with a bunch of Aussie supporters this weekend. They are all very positive about the pairing. It's clear watching trackside the KTM is so close, but just missing that little bit. Thank you for that inside information, Jonathan, and I hope you enjoyed your race weekend. Next time, you've got to get paddock passes. We're going to talk to Uncle Rob about paddock passes. Just ask Yanni Diaga the difference it makes having paddock passes. It just changes your whole MotoGP race weekend, being able to go in the paddock and see all the riders and the machines. Jorge Martin and Mikel Oliveira in Factory Aprilia Team 2024. Anybody? Edwin Norris. I don't think that's too far-fetched. I think Jorge Martin is very upset with Ducati. I think if he had the option, there was talk of him potentially going to Repsol Honda instead of Joan Mir, but I think that was more of a scare tactic for them with Ducati. I think his best option was staying with Pramac on a factory Ducati contract. Ducati have come out and said, we've matched his salary with Anaya Bashanini's salary in the factory team. So effectively, Jorge Martin is a full factory rider. But Martin wanted those factory colors. And that's another headache Ducati are going to have with this Martin next year. I think he's going to be hard to control in many situations because he's very upset. He was told he was going to get the factory ride. If you watch that part 1 and part 2 on the factory Ducati factory ride that's on the MotoGP website, him and his manager come out and said, we were told we had the ride done. Then all of a sudden Anaya came into the picture, and then this side of Ducati management was saying, it's Jorge Martin, we want you. And this side was saying Anaya. Ultimately, it went the way of Anaya Bashanini, which I think is the correct decision. I think he's a better overall bet compared to Martin. Martin has proved that he is probably the fastest rider in MotoGP, certainly over a lap. but he just can't put the whole thing together. And until he shows that, you know, might not be worthy of the factory ride. But I do. I think if Maverick doesn't get it right on the Aprilia, which I can see happening, especially with what's happened lately of him throwing his toys out the cot, and Aleix obviously just, wanting to retire. He'll be, what, 36 or 38 or whatever age he'll be. Then, yeah, Jorge Martin and Miguel Oliveira in the factory team. I could see, or I could see, like I said, if the KTM thing doesn't work out, I could see a Brad Binder there. I don't know. But, yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting to see what happens next year. I think performances of machines and teams next year is going to play a huge role. It's going to be a big, massive 2023 for a lot of teams, manufacturers, and riders. There's no doubt about that. Jonathan Fisser, we were also with JM on Friday. Jack Miller, he seems very excited about hooking up with Brad Binder. Simon was also chatting with us. They pretty much said all the boys would be giving a leg to get on a Ducati. I still have faith KTM's direction when it comes together will be top, maybe biased positivity. Yeah, Jack Miller is a fantastic guy. He really is, Jonathan. He's an amazing guy. And yeah, him and Brad are good mates, and I think it's going to be a great partnership. I really, really do. Fabio won 3, Pecco won 7. Jonathan Ball. This is why it's good to have Jonathan and Stephen Berry and everyone. There's the facts. Fabio's won 3 races this year. Pecco has won 7. That's huge. That's huge. Francois Couture, would Darren Binder get a wild card ride on the Gas in MotoGP because of the Husky Gas KTM family? It's a good question. I mean, there is the tie-in, obviously, now with Husqvarna sponsoring the team that Darren's in with the KTM group. If Darren goes and does what I know he's going to do in Moto2, yeah, I think KTM and would love to have him on one of their bikes. Whether or not that relationship and how that relationship is another question. But certainly, I think, like I said, once Darren shows what he can do in the Moto2, I think a lot of teams will be wanting his signature for 2020, if not 2024, 2025. I think a lot of teams will be gunning for Darren Binder's signature because they've already had a glimpse of what he can do on a MotoGP bike, the worst MotoGP bike, in the worst team. It's not a terrible team, but it is the worst of the teams in MotoGP in many ways, although they are ahead of Tech 3 KTM. But he's proven that, and if he can go and be Moto2 world champion, then he only deserves a proper ride in MotoGP. So, yeah. Michael, do you think we can get an interview with the Binder brothers before the final race? I can try, but I think realistically it might be easier to do it after. I'll ask the question, but like I said, I mean, they've just come off a rigorous 6 weeks of travel and an end. I really don't feel like being that irritating uncle that sends a message saying, will you do an interview? I already have to, and I'll bring this in now, I already have to ask our dear Mr. Brad Binder to sign a few of these for me in Valencia. I'll be sending them there. Unfortunately, I won't be at Valencia. Damn it. But I've got my beautiful family, so they take first precedence. I'm not leaving them ever again in my life. But anyway, yeah, I've managed to get myself 17 of these, which I'm not sending all 17 to get signed. I'm sending most of them back to South Africa, but I'm going to hopefully get Brad to sign. That's very difficult because there's not a lot of space to sign. So I was thinking maybe there or something. So I don't know, or maybe at the bottom of the box underneath there or on the side here, maybe, because, I don't know, you can all give me your point of view. Are you going to take the bike out of the box and display it, or you want to keep it in the box displayed? Because if you're going to keep it in the box, I thought maybe a signature there, or like my brother came up with the idea on the base of the box there, but then you can't really see if it's been displayed there. But if you display it like that, you can see the signature there, but you can't see the bike. So if it's there, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to try and get some of those KTM official MotoGP cards. So if you want to take it out the box, you can have the signed card behind it. But I'm going to have limited number of those, probably about 5 potentially signed ones. So I'll still have to ask Brad to do that for me. I'm pretty sure he will, but I hate asking. But hopefully I'll be sending 5 official signed ones back to South Africa, which we'll probably auction one off, and then we'll have a couple up for sale. And then I'm going to be sending just blank ones like this, as you see it in the box right here. official Brad Binder. It's a 2021 spec bike, but it's a very cool model. I had it out yesterday. It is so cool. So stay tuned to the Motor Rider World Facebook page and my personal page about the details on how you can buy one of these when they do make their way back to South Africa. And if you're in Europe and UK, I am keeping a couple here, and we'll have one or two signed ones here in the UK with me as well. So keep a lookout for that, and let me know what you think. Where should he sign? Where can he sign if you want to keep it displayed in the box? So yeah, and then I'll try and see if we can grab a word with him, but I cannot promise it. I really can't. Let's have a look. Starsky Williams, pretty much a two-man race with regards to camera work, taking nothing away from Pecco and Anaya, as it was very entertaining, but would love to see more of the rest of the field. I agree fully with you. I really do. Tawfiq Aqua, Frankie is such a waste of a seat. That could have been a great seat for Rins. Tawfiq, I would, personal bias here, I would love to see Darren Binder rather in that seat. But if he couldn't get it, yeah, I think Rins on a Yamaha would be a fantastic choice. Good shout out there. I really do think that would be a great choice on a Yamaha. Freddie Thomas, hey Rob, just a quick question. Am I right by saying that Cal must be helping Darren a hell of a lot, because Darren has definitely moved up to a next level? Freddie, I think so. I think Cal is certainly a little bit more accommodating in terms of, sitting and potentially talking to Darren about setup and then compared to what Andrea Dovizioso was. I think just the tracks that we've gone to, Phillip Island being one of Darren's favorite tracks. So I knew he was always going to go well there, and Sepang, he was going to go well because he does well at the track, but because he also tested the MotoGP bike earlier on the year, so he had MotoGP experience on the bike, and that's why it's so disappointing that the weekend went the way it did, because it was supposed to be another great weekend, but he just had bad luck throughout. He just got caught out with yellow flags, brake problems, crashing at the wrong moments. He really did have a lot of bad luck. But yeah, I think maybe Cal. I was at Aragon where Cal, made his first appearance, and there was definitely a much better vibe with the whole team. With Andrea, it brought a bit of uncomfort, a bit of dullness to the team, because he wasn't happy, which made the whole team, it was a bit miserable in many ways. But with Carl, there was a bit of a buzz. So, we can ask Darren that question when we do chat to him. I'm sure he'll happily answer that with a little bit more than what I've just answered it. Why did Darren come flying through the air in T4? Was it Grassini involved? I read something about brake fade. Jonathan Fisser. So, yeah, from what I've been told, it was brake fade. He just had brake fade and, pulled the brake, nothing, and then just landed up crashing. DJ Antonio, I think, just crashed, not involved. No, I thought it was involved because that's what the commentators had said. And again, this is where the cameraman, why not pan to, even if you didn't get the crash, pan to Darren picking it up or DG picking it up, so we can kind of make sense of it ourselves. We saw nothing. We just get the graphic saying Darren Binder's crashed. Okay, well, show us more. Please show us whatever you have. Yeah, that was a bit frustrating. Still interested in that new hairstyle or lack thereof for Brad? Just a haircut or more to it? Eugene, I don't know. I think it was just a haircut. Maybe we'll have to ask Brad when we have a chat with him, and see what he says. And shout, Jonathan, you can't sit behind a TV and shout until you have been there and experienced it. That's all. Jonathan, I agree with you. And being in the paddock as much as I was this year changed my mindset a lot with how critical I was being with many situations and many riders and many teams, pointing the finger. It is a lot easier to do that from the outside. When you're on the inside, you understand a lot more. And that's the frustrating part on Dorna, not letting the likes of me or journalists, or that MotoGP, what was it called? What was it called? MotoGP Unlimited, that movie, if you like, that they put out. They didn't show enough of that. They didn't show enough of what actually happens behind the scenes and what you hear and what they didn't show enough of that. There was the glimpses of like the Maverick, having that little tussle with Lynn Jarvis in the thing, saying, well, let me out of my contract and let me go ride another bike, and them having that little thing. There's so much more that happens when you're at the track and what you see in the paddock, what you hear in the paddock and out. So you don't point your finger as much, and you do sympathize a lot more because you see a lot more of it. So I certainly, my whole perception, a lot of my perception had changed from what I'd seen in the paddock this year. And I was happy that I was the only South African journalist in the paddock to be able to kind of report it to you. And the frustrating thing is I would love to do that more on a full-time basis and be South Africa's MotoGP journalist, and in many ways I have, but it costs a lot of money to do it. And I sent various emails to SuperSport and just said, let me be your reporter. At the MotoGP paddock, there's 110 million journalists from all over the world, and they're there reporting. They've got their cameraman and they report live from the paddock, and from Greece have got their own. Then there's obviously quite a few from Spain. The Netherlands have got, every single country's got. And I'm like, well, I'm there, SuperSport. I've broken into it. Let's have our own reporter getting more inside information on certainly Brad and Darren, but the whole MotoGP for South African race fans, rather than us just hearing it from the crash.nets and the everywhere else. Let's have our own insider. And it was awesome that I was able to do that and bring that, but it's frustrating that I can't be financially supported to do that. Because to do it on my own, it's impossible. It is absolutely impossible. Plus all the travel and that I mentioned now, being away from my family. But certainly, I could pinpoint out of the 21 races, 12, and we could go live, from SuperSport live in the paddock with us and bring you a lot more inside information. But to this day, I'm waiting for a reply from someone from SuperSport. So doesn't seem like that will become a reality, unfortunately. And I'm perfectly based now in the UK. I'm 2 hours away from anywhere in Europe. So it would be perfect to use the resource that we've got. But yeah, sadly, it doesn't seem to be working that way. Leon Everts, what happened to Nakagami? Yes, he's still injured from that crash, remember, at Aragon, where Marc Marquez and him touched and everything. So, yeah. Guys, wish my son good luck for tomorrow. He's doing a show and tell, and it is titled Meeting the Binder Brothers. He's so excited. Mariska, tell your son from all of us, including myself, good luck. Brilliant subject. Enjoy it. Be confident. And I'm pretty sure everyone will absolutely love it. But good luck to Mariska's son. You didn't tell us your beautiful son's name, so we can... I was going to write a poster and put it up for you now. But good luck, young man. I hope it all goes well. He's extremely proud to show them his Brad Binder knee slider and the pics with Brad and Darren. That's amazing, Mariska. Enjoy it. Just tell him to enjoy it. Jackie Morrison, that move eventually set up his Moto2 ride in a good team. Yeah, Jackie, I can understand that. I can understand that. He would have, to be honest, would have been that team have been chasing him for the last couple of years. So had he not signed the MotoGP deal for this year, he would have been with that team probably this year. Anyway, so yeah, Shane, that team has finally got their wish of having Darren Binder by or running their colors. So it's brilliant. And a big thank you must go to that team for keeping the faith with Darren. Natalie Mayring, what's his number? Natalie, we're going to have to ask Darren when we do a live chat with him. Hopefully we do a live chat with him soon and we can ask him and find out what his number will be. Razlan wanted Raul Fernandez and even signed his Moto2 crew chief, then signed him when he made it unbearable for KTM to keep him. Already had his crew chief, so puzzle completed. Wesley, completely agree with you. That is why I was saying I don't understand why Darren was a seat filler for this year. Clearly, Darren was a seat filler. And to be honest, and I'll give a little bit of paddock banter here, I was very, very upset at Aragon, the last Aragon race that I was at, because the deal was obviously done that Raul was riding with the team and that, but Raul Fernandez was sitting in the RNF hospitality with Darren's crew chief, having supper like literally right opposite us. And I just thought that's so disrespectful because you know the situation with Darren. First of all, Ralph Fernandez, you in the RNF hospitality team having supper with that team as opposed to your Tech 3 team, which is disrespectful, wearing your Tech 3 colors and everything. Then you're sitting with the crew chief of a fellow opponent whose ride you have taken and you do not deserve, and you're sitting right there having supper. So I thought it was disrespectful of the crew chief. I thought it was disrespectful of Ralph Fernandez. So that's just me. That's me. I looked at that and went, I wanted to walk up and give him one of those, a proper South African PK. But yeah, in those situations, you've got to be calm, collected, and just enjoy the free food and the great company that was Darren and Zandria. Let's have a look. Quibus Mayer got a drop off. Thank you so much for joining us, Quibus. I know we are getting a bit long in the tooth here. I'm going to try and catch up with some comments here. My opinion, KTM, is that Miguel was a bit toxic for the team. I think KTM and Brad is going to make strides next year. Tafik, I don't think he was toxic. I just think Miguel exhausted his his passion and his willingness to stay in the team, and I think that's why he is leaving and being replaced by Jack. I think he also looked at his career and went, I can't give any more. I'm tired of giving as much as I am. I'm tired of developing. I want to climb on a proven package and just go race, and that's what he's going to go do. So yeah, I think toxic's maybe a little bit of a strong word, but certainly upset the apple cart that's there. I think the Jack and the Brad, the freshness that Jack will bring in, the always positive that Brad has, I think is going to be great for the team. Andre Essex, Rob, we discussed this before, where Yamaha seem hell bent on data input only and not rider input to an extent, but surely Yamaha must now realize they must start listening to their riders. Andre, 100% agree with you. As I said, the guys from Yamaha would come sit and listen to Darren. I don't know what they were writing because they didn't listen to anything he said, and just whatever the computer said is what you go with. So I agree with you. I do think they need to listen to the riders more and build a bike that Fabio wants, build a bike that Fabio, kind of go the Honda route, which is very dangerous because we saw what happened with Marc Marquez, and it's probably not the right route to go, but it's the only route they have at the moment. Listen to your riders. Listen. Dylan Conway, thought you said Brad was the greatest Uber driver. He was. Brad was my America Uber driver and host because I stayed in his room, luckily. But my Uber driver let me down in America because you rent all these like electric scooters. So Brad, got 10 scooters for all of us, and we're riding around because it was Matthew Scholz, Cam Peterson, all of us. And then at some point we all just got lost a little bit. So I'm riding around like lost with some of the KTM team as well. Next minute you're riding flat out, having a race, and the scooter just stops because now the guy that's paid for them has found where he wants to be, and he's cancelled the scooters because now we're all parked there. To Brad's credit, he immediately got on the phone. Hey, Uncle Rob, where are you? And I said, well, my scooter's now dead, thank you. And I don't know where the F I am, and my phone's going flat, and I have no data internet. And he did everything in his power to find his Uncle Rob and whisk me into the party that they were at. So yeah, he let me down, but he made out for it. So ladies and gentlemen, Mark's not an actual Uber driver. He's just my personal Uber driver. I just call him Mr. Uber because he drove me around. But yes, he's not an actual Uber driver. For those who think. Rob Hepburn, sorry, Rob, forgot to put in sprint races. Yeah, okay, so Rob, I understand your question now about the sprint races and World Superbikes NNN. So we've touched upon that now. Let's have a look. Dirty Air is, yes, I'm miles behind you. So I'm gonna just scroll quite a bit. Rob in the box, as they will be worth more. So that's the Darren box, base of the box. Okay, so I must get the box signed, like you said. Sign the base of the box and keep in the box, Gareth Williams. Okay, so that's what we'll do. What's the story with Brad's haircut? We'll try and ask him when we do a live chat with him. That's the best way to do it. I walked past Martin on the plane in the very little hours of the morning. He was hiding under his hoodie and he was not a happy camper. Jonathan Fisser. Yeah, I can imagine he wasn't. He's one of the more unapproachable riders, is Jorge Martin. When you do get his attention, he's quite bubbly, but to get his attention is quite hard. So yeah, I can understand he must have been very, very, very upset. Did Supersport answer any of your emails? And if so, what was the reply? Daryl, I've had no reply from Supersport whatsoever. I don't know if I've got the right email or whatever, but I researched and I found every single email I could possibly, and I sent and I've heard nothing. So unfortunately, no. His name is Keanu, Mariska's son. So good luck, Keanu. All the best, my buddy. Give them hell. Go and enjoy it. That's all I can tell you to do is go and enjoy it. Be brave and enjoy it. Stoke, booked to go watch the boys in Austin, Texas next April. Hook us up, Rob. Gareth Island. Gareth, you're going to love Austin. Austin was one of the best by far. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely loved Austin this year. Yeah, you're going to enjoy it. I can hook you up, but you're going to have to pay, unfortunately. I wish I could just give everyone free paddock passes, but there's no such thing. You have to pay. Uncle Rob, did you watch race 1 and race 2 of World Superbikes? Nicole, I did. I just love watching Top Race Garioglu in action. He just, the amount that he makes up on the brakes and are sideways and out of control he gets at Yamaha is brilliant. But shame, him and Johnny Ray have just got no hope of beating Alvaro on that Ducati. It's just too fast. Take nothing away from Alvaro Batista, because if you look at the other Ducatis, they're not doing what he's doing on the Ducati. But yeah, there's no ways they're going to beat it. I mean, Johnny Ray also just, he's on a Fabio situation. The Kawasaki's just old. It's just an old motorcycle now. There's no ways he's going to compete on that bike. And that's why I would have liked to have seen him made the jump to Ducati for next year in his final years of World Superbike. Go win on another manufacturer. But he's staying loyal and true to Kawasaki, and I think he's going to battle. I don't think it's going to get much better for Johnny Ray and Kawasaki. Toprak and Yamaha, I think, will make a few more strides, but entertaining. World Superbikes is entertaining. Love it. One question for me in World Superbikes is how the hell Rinaldi got to stay with his factory Ducati ride ahead of now the Axel Bassani. I don't know, because Bassani to me is more exciting. I think he's faster. He proved it again on the weekend with the podium in race 1. So yeah, let's see. But World Superbike's always exciting. Absolutely love it. Huge Top Race Galioglu fan. A little bit of a Bautista fan. Like I said, I didn't have a great experience with him at Estoril, Portugal when I was there. It wasn't as accommodating as the likes of Johnny and Toprak and all the other riders. But yeah, I love them all. The racing is absolutely fantastic. How is Darren Binder doing, Uncle Rob? Nicole, he's exhausted. Like I said, I messaged him and he finally got back home and he's exhausted, but I haven't had a lot of conversation, to be honest, with him. I really haven't. It's just been so vigorous that, you know, they travel and that you don't expect them to have a conversation. So hopefully we can have a chat either before Valencia or after. I'm sure very lucky that they always do find time not only to speak with me but with all the SA fans as well. So hopefully we can have a live chat and ask them all kinds of questions and see how they're doing. Rob, I will send you a pic of my brother. He looks like Brad's twin, even more now with the shaved hair. I've got your message. There's all my messages coming through now. I've got your message, Gareth. I'll have a look at it. There's a lot of people that look like Brad now. A lot of convicts that look like Brad now. He looks mean. The title, the tag, the machete that I gave him looks, more so now with that haircut. I think he looks mean. I love it. Looks like he belongs in, my former hardcore band. Looks like he belongs with me now. Just slap some tattoos on him, and he's a hardcore MF. And then he's got to deal with his dad after getting tattoos. And my dad was Trevor and said, don't get tattoos. I would also not get tattoos because I would not want the fate that lies any man going against a Trevor Binder. That's for sure. New ZX coming for next year. That's why Ray signed another deal. Okay, Sven, I didn't know that. So thank you for that. It's got to be one hell of a ZX to come, because they are quite a way behind. I mean, Johnny Ray hasn't won in 14 races or something. You can maybe correct me on that, but yeah, they look far, far from the win. So strange to see Bradley Smith is now in Super Sport, but still crashing Daryl Northard. Oh, I was waiting for that. Yeah, it was weird. It was very weird to see a Bradley Smith racing in Super Sport 600. But how exciting is that Super Sport 600s? I mean, that next year with, John McPhee going there, I think Marshall Schrotzer's going there, or Schrotter, yeah, I think Schrotzer's going there. What's his name? Jorge Navarro is going there. There's a lot of riders going there. So I think it's going to be very, very exciting. Kyo Monyonyana, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what Brad Binder looks like. Not as much muscle, but yeah, the same kind of look. Love it. Love it. I think he looks hardcore. I love it. Just want to arm wrestle him now. He'll probably destroy me. Some face tattoos to feet. Yeah, can you imagine? I'm going to do a Photoshop rendition. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take that picture that we saw of Brad on the grid with you there, and I'm going to put some teardrops and some face tattoos. Let's do it. Let's do it. It's going to be awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that is about it. What was I going to talk about? I think we talked about everything. Frankie Morbidelli and his silliness. Paul Espargaro and his silliness. I mean, the main talking point heading into Valencia is Pecco versus Fabio. Which side are you on? Pecco, Fabio? I'm on the fence. I think they both deserve it for their own reasons. I'm a huge fan of both. It's going to be very exciting. It is going to be exciting. This is what we wanted at the start of the year. We wanted the championship to go down to the wire at Valencia. And that's exactly what's happening. So I'm excited. Jonathan, thank you so much for tuning in and giving us a little bit of insight on your race weekend. That's brilliant. I really do appreciate it. Let's see what Remy Gardner does in World Superbikes. I think World Superbikes is going to be more exciting next year as well. There's some nice names coming in there. So yeah, the world of racing is looking good. It's looking really, really good. And I thank you all for joining me. Keep a lookout on the Motor Rider World Facebook page for, again, the models that'll get signed and how we're going to sell them, how much they're going to be, where you can get them from. I'm going to send as many back to South Africa as I can. I'm going to keep some in the UK. So please don't think that I'm leaving all you UK fans and European fans out. And then, yeah, just go on to just email Supersport, go onto Supersport's Facebook page and say, there's an Uncle Rob in the UK. He has sent you countless emails. We want him as our Simon Crayfar, whatever, inside guy for MotoGP at the races. So we have our very own South African doing a South African MotoGP show rather than just having to piggyback off everyone else. Goodbye. Enter. Go send that for me. That'll be brilliant. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Stay well, stay healthy, stay fabulous. And I will speak to you again in a couple of weeks' time where it's going to be the final race of the MotoGP season. So we'll talk about that, and we're going to talk about what the hell we're going to do when there's no more MotoGP. But have no fear. I will keep you entertained. We will chat to as many riders. Simon Crayfar will keep you entertained. Love you all. Have a great night. Sleep tight. Have a great week. Goodbye.